This video is for entertainment purposes only. None of the information you're about to hear should be considered medical advice, and you should always consult a licensed medical practitioner before embarking on a health or lifestyle change. Okay, so we're recording this week with Hope from Mission Keto. Again, I'd like to say I appreciate you coming on here and speaking with us this week, and hopefully we can.
Thank you so much for asking me. Who doesn't love talking about themselves, right?
Well, yeah, it's funny. I've done almost 20 of these interviews now myself, and it's weird when I get on the other side of it.
Yeah,
it is different, you know. But trying to talk about yourself is definitely a little more difficult. But you know, as with most of the interviews here, I'm just trying to bring as much information to YouTube as possible. You know, I don't have the biggest following on YouTube yet, but you know, it's the more information I feel that we can bring out, the better it is, and hopefully we can help someone with the information that we come up with in these interviews. So
absolutely, yeah. Even if you're helping just one person, you know, and I'm sure you are. That's awesome.
Yeah, it in our last week, I did a best of video, and there was actually someone in the chat that seemed ready to start changing the way they were living. So
that is so cool.
Yeah, so that's all we can really hope for. So
right.
So usually the way I like to do these interviews is basically, if we want to start with sort of what you got into the keto space, and you know how long you've been doing it and all that stuff, and then we can get into how things are going now and where things are going.
Okay. Well, in a nutshell of just how I started and how long ago, it was 2017. But I'm not that perfect person that has kept up with it for that long. 2017, our oldest daughter called us and she said, "Hey, I'm going to be trying this new thing, the keto diet." Her and her husband were. And so after kind of looking it up and seeing, and I'm like, cheese, okay, bacon, yeah, you know, all this stuff that we eat anyways, we just have to kind of cut out like high carb items. I was like, we can try this. So that's what kind of started it. And we were very successful. My husband is doing it with me, or he's on his own journey right now too. But we started that together in 2017. I lost all the weight that I wanted. I was exactly where I wanted to be. And then life happened. You know, we moved to Georgia for my job. Right, like 2 months later, the pandemic happened, and you know, it slowly started creeping back up because that new thing, net carbs, came out, and which does work for some people. I will never knock it if it's working for you, but that definitely did not work for us. So the pounds just kept creeping back up. So that's basically how it started. So we'll end it with that.
Yeah, the whole net carbs thing, and well, my personal experience with it is, and you're right, I think it works for a lot of people. And a lot of people do see results, you know, when they start just by cutting out all the crap and, you know, trying to stay at a net carb limit for the most part. But I found the same thing happened to me as I stopped focusing on total carbs and allowed the treats and all that crap to sort of work their way back into my diet. And then, for I think the third year that I was on keto, things were going backwards. And then, you know, starting the fourth year, I just said, no, I'm more carnivore now than anything else. But so, yeah, I can definitely understand that and definitely relate to it. It's, and I think that's probably something a lot of people wind up happening. It happens to their journey. It's, you know, you get comfortable with things and so cool. So So basically, is your daughter still doing keto? Is she still?
Well, yeah, she's kind of been back and forth on it too, but she is actually doing it now. And because it has been the only thing that has worked. And at this point it's, for me, it's a lifestyle now. That's what I'm going to be doing. Last January of 2022. Yeah, this is 23. So January of 2022, I was like, that's it. I'm going back to basics. I'm, because when we first started it, there was no packaged foods, none of that. We were eating the hamburgers and, salads and the egg roll in a bowl, all that stuff that was so popular and still is. And, I would make literally like cheese chips in the oven for both of us for the week to snack on, pepperoni chips, that kind of thing. And there was no packaged foods at all. So that's what I have been doing, back to basics. I am not a huge meat lover. I love like salmon, and I will have a hamburger, and I can have like roasts and stuff, but for the most part, I mean, I love salads and stuff too. So I do like the veggie part of it. And definitely the cheese thing too. And bacon. I mean, thank goodness I love bacon. But I started last January and I said, I'm going to give myself a year because I didn't want to put pressure on me because things can happen. Because I've been through it before, and I did. All the weight that I had regained, I lost almost all of it back, but like 5 pounds. And I've been working out and stuff too. So I feel like I was very successful because working out can kind of, alter your weight loss portion of it. You know what I mean? So I did. I lost 34 pounds last year. And, I gave room to myself for our anniversary, maybe had some seafood tacos, you know what I mean, at a restaurant or something like that. I just didn't put a lot of pressure because I know that doing it this way, counting the total carbs, it works. And it did.
Yeah. Yeah. I think once you get to that point where, you forget, or you stop calling it a diet sort of thing, and you turn it into a lifestyle, that allows you that, I don't know how to say it, allows you to
I know what
it
you're saying. It's like, it's not freedom,
yeah.
but I don't feel like I'm limiting myself. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything either. I just, because we all are human. And that's one thing I do love about my channel is there is a no judgment zone. We're human. This life is hard, and get right back up tomorrow. You know what I mean? So, and everybody's on a different journey too. Like you said, you're doing partly carnivore. My husband is doing strictly meat right now, meat and salt. And then he has an occasional coffee, and he's almost at 100 pounds lost since last July. So I couldn't do that. I don't want to do it, So it's just whatever works for you, I think, is what's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there is, you're 100% right. There's no right way to do it. It's whatever sort of allows you to stay consistent with things, I think, is the way to do it. The way I do keto or carnivore is going to be different from the next person. And, and that's why I, even on my channel too, it's like there's such a spectrum of people that do things differently. And that's, again, why I want to do interviews like this, so that it shows people that, hopefully somewhere in there's someone they can relate to, right?
Right.
Like,
exactly.
There's been lots of people I've talked to that are strictly carnivore, and then there's people that are ketovore or keto, or just low carb and stuff like that. So I do think it's important to find that balance for yourself, so that, because if you're right, if you don't like what you're doing, it's never going to work long term.
Right. Exactly. And I feel like it's very important too. Like I know there's a few people, I know Alan from Alan's Awesome Keto World too. He's in maintenance mode. And that's kind of where I'm at. I'm still trying to just play around with a few more pounds just for fun. But I think that's important to document that too, because people are going to get there. And I've had people ask me, are you going to stop your channel once you get to your goal weight? No, I want to hopefully help and show what I'm doing to kind of maintain it. So yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And I personally, like, I didn't even start my YouTube channel until I had more or less lost all the weight that I have lost. And, like
Man, if
but that's when
I
I figured at that time, it's like, okay, well, I can't document my journey with YouTube, but
yeah,
maybe I can help with bringing what I've learned over the last
you
couple of
have
years.
before
Cause
pictures. All you got to do is pop up at a before picture too while you're
yeah,
talking about it, you know?
yeah. And I
Yeah.
think you're right. Everyone talks about the journey and getting to that goal weight and everything else. I personally think it's harder when you get there.
Mm,
Like you see
well,
that number on the scale if you use a scale or not, and you're like,
right,
okay, well, what now? Right. So the whole maintenance mode type thing is, I find, it's just as hard as changing your lifestyle, I think, as trying to maintain it.
right. Yep.
So,
It's true. It's true.
yeah.
Yikes. But good job with
Um,
you. You're in that maintenance mode now too?
yeah, pretty much. Yeah. With me, it got to the point where, I lost 80 pounds basically on the
Wow.
nose, got under 200 pounds, and uh, for the first time since I was like 18 years old, kind of thing. And,
Oh,
I was proud of what I did. It worked really good, but it wasn't really uh, what my body wanted. I don't think,
mm,
like, I got there, and now I basically just listen to my body. And if it tells me I'm feeling good, okay, well, I don't sit under 200 pounds anymore. It's more 210,
okay.
215, something like that.
Yeah.
But this is where I feel my best, right? And I think that's the hard part, is that everyone has that goal in their head when they start. Okay, well, I want to get down to this weight and everything
Yeah.
else. But, especially as we get older, I think our bodies have a different idea of what that goal weight should
Yeah.
be.
That's definitely true. And that's you're absolutely right about that number in your head. I talked about that a lot last year, as I wanted to hit this 145 because that was the weight. After I had my kids, I never lost that last 10 pounds, So I was 145. And I'm like, if I can at least get back to that. But you're right, age plays a really big part in it. I worked out too. And, I have this fun goal. Like my husband, Andy, has this goal to get back to his weight that we got married at. And so I was like, well, that's fun. Maybe I'll try that too, just for fun. But I am happy. I'm happy where I'm at. If I don't lose another pound, and I think that's important too. It's like, I don't care if I say I'm 150 right now. That may sound large, and my Fit Track scale says I'm still overweight, but I'm happy and I feel good and my blood work is good. My blood pressure is better. So that's what I'm looking at, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's important for people to understand too, because trying to maintain, you know, a body weight that's not,
Yeah, it's
and home, like, that your body doesn't want you to maintain.
yeah.
That's a lot of work. Like, that's a lot of stress. And, I don't know. I just, again, if I got really strict with it and I worked out a lot more and all that, I could probably get back down under 200 pounds. But I don't know. I
Yeah,
feel good enough now. It's like, wow, I'm not going to stress
that's what
myself out about that. So,
absolutely. Yeah, that's what
yeah.
matters. So,
Yeah. Um, so do you, I always like to ask, do you do any fasting, or
no.
is
No,
that
not
kind
really.
of a no?
No, I mean, I don't technically eat a meal until lunchtime, but I am a very big coffee lover. So, I do have my coffee 1 or 2 in the morning.
Mhm.
And right now I'm doing a dairy-free challenge the month of April, so I'm not having my half and half, but I'm still doing like coconut cream or almond milk. So, if it's got what calories or fat they say it's got, it'll break your fast, but I don't track. I don't, that's just too much thinking for me, and
Mhm.
I never did it before. So no, but I don't technically eat a meal till lunchtime.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I guess I don't, but I feel like I kind of do naturally. I've always been brought up. My mom always said, eat when you're hungry, and now
Mhm.
it's eat till you're full too. So if I'm hungry, I'm going to eat. That's just
Sure.
how I am.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm pretty much the same way too. Like, I don't, I don't uh, fast on purpose. I
Yeah.
just if I'm not hungry, I'm not going to eat, basically. So,
Right.
and and that's another thing too, is that when you're coming off of a bad diet, it's kind of hard to understand the whole
Right.
concept of, you know, actually figuring out when you're hungry and when you're full,
Mhm.
and when to eat and when to stop, and all that. But I think after a few years of eating like a keto lifestyle, it definitely comes natural.
Right.
Um, it just takes a long time to get there. A lot of people don't really even know what it actually means to be hungry, because
Yep.
they're always feel hungry because of the food that they're eating.
Right. Because there's chemicals and stuff in that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially that darn sugar. That is like cocaine. I really believe that it's like a drug. Oof, it's scary.
Yep.
Scary. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It's definitely something it's really hard to break that
Mhm.
addiction to things like sugar. I guess my thing wasn't necessarily sugar related. It's more the processed carbs that got me, but things like potato chips and all that, I was
Pasta,
never.
rice. I'm a
Yeah.
carby girl too. I'm more savory than sweet by any means. So that's the
Mhm.
harder part for me. So that's why I really try to pick and cook recipes that are just so delicious that I'm not missing any of that, Yeah. Ooh.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And yeah, and that's why I think channels like yours are great too for things like that. Cause I think people struggle with the idea of like, okay, well, what am I going to do if I give up the things
Mm,
that I love? But all I have to do is look at recipes like you do, and like Alan does, and
yeah.
Mike and Tom and everyone else, that you're not really, okay. Yes, you're giving up some of the things that you grew up loving, but
Right.
you know, you can replace them with some really good food. Like
Yep.
I personally don't miss the potatoes when I'm having a ribeye steak on a Sunday or something, right? Like it's,
Yeah.
you know, to tell someone that, okay, well, you can have that ribeye, you can have some vegetables with it, and even if you want to have some eggs on the side or whatever, and
Yeah.
people are like, well, that doesn't sound healthy. Well,
Yeah.
it's just a different way of looking at life, I guess.
Yep. Definitely.
Yeah. So speaking of YouTube, like I say,
Mhm.
I didn't find your channel until, I don't know, it was 2, 3 weeks ago. But whenabouts did you uh, start the YouTube channel up?
Man, I wish I would have started it in 2017 when I first started, because
Mm,
there's been a lot of people that I've watched that did start around that time doing the same thing, total
hmm.
carbs, and whoo, they're way up there.
Yeah.
But started it in 2019. It was one of those many where, you know, well, we were getting back on it right before we moved to Georgia for my work, and that was probably when we started the the net carb thing. Because I was it was completely foreign to me. I was like, when did this happen? Net carb? I don't even know, how do you calculate that? Like, I literally had to look it up and see. I'm like, we didn't do that before. Um,
Hmm.
and we were still making a lot of the same things that we were making, but then probably one of the biggest downfalls for Andy and I was the low carb wraps, those keto friendly low carb wraps. We were just making everything with those, having them literally every single day. And
Hmm.
we did a little experiment and had like cut it out for a month. He's like, we need to stop this and just see. And sure enough, we felt so much better without it, because the ingredients are just really not good. They're pretty much the same
Yeah.
thing. They just put more fiber in it or whatever. So
Hmm.
yeah, I started in 2019 and it's been pretty slow going. Um, but yeah, we've just stuck it out basically. With the pandemic hit, and I think people gained so much weight around the pandemic. You would think I would have probably grown a little faster around that time, but no, I think people were just doing their own thing. But we've stuck with it. I'm really proud of how far we've come, and Andy has started to join me because of his journey too, and people are really receiving him well. And yeah, it's fun to do it, with him on here too. So
Yeah, no, it must be. I think one of the things I always preach on my channel as well is, if you don't have someone at home that's on the
yeah,
same kind of journey or that can support you, it's definitely important to find some sort of support, on YouTube or
yeah,
Facebook or, there's a few communities out there. You have to be careful with some of them. They, get a little preachy and, uh,
yeah,
some of the groups you don't feel comfortable because you can't share anything without getting, chewed out by
right,
someone,
right.
So if you get in with someone like Two Crazy Ketos or
Hmm.
some of those groups like that, there's some good support out there. But yeah, if you don't have someone at home or directly,
Yeah,
in your life that can support it and even be on the same journey, it can definitely be pretty tough. So that's cool that you guys are
yeah.
you're on your different journeys, but
Completely. It's funny
yeah.
because I'm like, I mean, everybody loves food. I mean, that's why we're here, right? But
Hmm.
um, I do miss, I mean, we don't even eat together anymore, really, because he
Hmm.
eats when he's hungry. I eat when I'm hungry. I work from home. He works outside of the home. So it's like, I do miss certain things, but I'm just trying to be real supportive, because he had a lot more weight to lose than I do. And so, yeah, I don't know how he is so focused. I don't know, but he is just feeling so good, and I'm just so proud of him. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, obviously I can't speak for everyone, but
Mhm.
the way it worked for me is that again, I wanted to lose weight and that's how it started. But it's the way I felt once I started to
Yes.
lose that weight that really sort of turned it around for me and said, okay, well, I have to stick with this because, I know how bad I felt before and I know how good I'm feeling now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't ever want to go back to the way I felt before, right? Like
Yeah.
once you start feeling really good, you don't want to give that up anymore. And,
You're right. And then you
then it
start
turns
fitting
in.
into smaller clothes. And I mean, he was
Mhm.
starting to be in a 4XL and now he's in a 2XL. And that is huge. He hasn't been in a 2XL in forever. And, I was in larges, extra larges, and now I'm in medium and sometimes a small. So that really is amazing feeling for your head too. That's like, you want to keep that going. I don't ever want to buy an extra large again, you know?
Yep. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. That was definitely the most expensive part of it for me is that, I had to, things got so big on me that had no choice but to go out and buy new clothes. And it's like, okay, well, I actually enjoy buying clothes now.
Right.
Before it was like,
Yes.
okay, well, just try and find something that fits and all that. But now it's like, okay, well, hey, I can fit into this again, and I can fit into jeans that I haven't worn since I was a teenager, and
That's awesome. Yeah.
that's definitely a one of those non-scale victories that we all talk about that I
Yep.
think a
Important.
lot of people enjoy. Like I say, it's expensive. I guess if you have to replace everything, but to me, it's worth it
Yeah.
for sure.
Yep. Definitely. I like
Cool.
shopping, so I'm fine. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny. I never really cared about shopping for clothes. It
Yeah.
wasn't really anything I cared about at all. But now I can, I don't do a lot of shopping for clothes, but when I go out looking for something, I
The
actually spend
stress
time
about
and
it is gone. Yeah.
hmm
Yeah. You're most likely going to find something. And yeah, I've seen a difference in myself and Andy with that too. It's a crazy feel. It is weird. It's not as stressful. And
yeah,
that's huge.
yeah, yeah. It's when you go from looking at jeans or something and not being able to find something big enough to not necessarily finding the smallest or the smaller size that you need.
Yeah.
It's it's completely different shift in mindset, I guess. it's, you know, it's a good problem to have for sure. So,
And I still have this mental thing though, where I pick this larger size because I don't think I'm going to fit into something smaller, you know, and it's
hmm
just, it's
hmm
weird how the mind works. And then I'll put these clothes, I'm like, this is too big. I need to go get a smaller one, you know? And I
sure.
still feel like I'm going to be this, you know, bigger size. So that's, I don't know if you experience that, but yeah, my mind does that to me sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. You know, you go in and with the idea, okay, well, I need this size, and you go try it on. It's like, oh, okay, well, I guess I don't need that that
Yes.
size. So you go back and, you know, like I say, it's a great problem to have. You know, like you know,
Yeah.
every time you can pick up that smaller size off the shelf and it fits, that to me is a better feeling than
Hmm.
anything I've ever seen on the scale. So
Yep.
it's definitely worthwhile.
Yes.
Okay, well, I won't take up too much of your time here.
Okay.
I do like to sort of end off with, if you could sort of, looking back on when you first started or when you restarted or anything,
Okay.
what you could sort of, what kind of advice could you give to someone who's just starting out and wants to turn this into a lifestyle?
Right. I would just say don't make it more complicated than it is. The keto diet, it is science based. There's a lot of science involved in it and how this came to be, but it's really very simple. It is. And just, I mean, I would just look when I go grocery shopping. Like I said, I don't track. I don't know how many carbs I have a day. I'm guessing between 20 and 30 because when I go shopping, I look at the total carb count. And that's what I would recommend is trying that and going that route. You might want to do maybe 30 to 40 carbs if you're just starting out for the first time, but just don't make it more complicated than it is. If you love cheese, stack up on cheese, bacon, meats, and even some veggies. I personally don't worry about veggies. I don't pay attention to that carb count because I just feel
Mhm.
like it's still one of those outer rims of the grocery store, you know, that is not packaged. So yeah, that was a lot just to say, don't overcomplicate.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. A lot of people do uh, tend to overthink it. You
Hmm.
know, and I was one of those people. I spent a whole week online trying to figure out how to do things and everything. And then it just got to the point where it's like, forget all this. I'm going to go out and buy some food that is low carb and I'm just going to
Right.
wing it. And
And let
that's
me
the way it,
piggyback off of that too, because I think something else is very important is if you can't buy grass fed, that's fine. If you can't buy
Mhm.
pasture raised eggs, that's fine. Because if you have to buy store bought hot dogs, that's fine. It's literally, if you watch people and they're getting that, because sometimes I do, but it depends on the week, depends on if it's payday week, it depends on how I feel. You know what I mean? It's not the end of the world if you don't get those things. Just go get the cheapest of whatever. It's okay.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah. The cheapest ground beef is going to be healthier for you than, you know,
Oreos.
I don't know, Oreos for sure. And I'm the same way. Basically, a lot of times I'll just buy supermarket ground beef for meal preps for during the week. But then on the weekend, like today, I went to a local farm and bought some ribeyes and burgers and all that. So I invest my money on parts of it, but then the
Yeah.
bulk of it is just the best I can afford, right? So
Yep. Yep.
that's definitely good advice because yes, if people spend any kind of time watching some of these YouTube channels, that
Mhm.
some of them, not the majority of them, but some of them are, yeah, well, you need this and you need that, and it really
Yeah.
doesn't make any difference. You know, you're right.
Baby steps, man. Baby
Yeah,
steps.
do whatever you can, and you know, uh, especially if you're on a bunch of medications that are taking up your, you know, a lot of
Right.
your income for the month. Change your lifestyle, and you'll find that you're going to free up money when you get off of those medications. So
Right. That
cool.
is definitely true.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, well, that's great advice, Hope. It's you know, I do, like, again, really appreciate you coming on here and
Yes.
sharing your story, and hopefully we can inspire some more people to
I
give
hope
this a go.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it. I haven't done many of these, and I'm always, like I said, I love talking about myself.
yeah, I hear you.